Hi. I'm doing the third lecture on social stratification, and it was hot today, hot as fuego in San Diego and also in Portland, where it was in its 90s. So I'm in my scuba diving gear from Mexico because it's hot. It's just hot. So climate change. So I want to do this lecture about deindustrialization and Walmart, the Walmart effect. And so this is the one that I've been sort of building to. And we have to talk about the means of production, a term that we borrow from Karl Marx about how money is generated in society. And for most of the 20th century, when we think about the American economy, the majority of people who worked in what was called the manufacturing sector. They made stuff. They worked in factories and they made everything from cars to pantyhose to plastic Easter eggs to shovels to spatulas. It's like a lot of everything that could be made in a factory. And so we were primarily a building economy. And those workers, for the most part, were unionized, which meant a couple of things. It meant that they had a way to increase their pay. Their union would go to the table. My glasses are steaming up. It's so hot. Their union would go to the table. Their union leadership and bargain a new contract for them, so they could keep up with the cost of living. So there was a way to improve your lot in life and to develop money and maybe buy a house and start the American dream. There was health care benefits that those unions won for their workers. There were safety and health protections about how long the work week is going to be. I mean, we get the 40-hour work week and getting Sundays off thanks to unions, and you got pensions, money put away for your retirement, so you didn't have to work till the day you died. And so there was a ladder to the American dream. In 1960, the number one employer in America was General Motors. Most people who worked, and this is mostly men in a very patriarchal society, worked manufacturing autos. And they belonged to the union, and they got pay increases, and they got health care benefits, and they got pension, and they got protections on the workplace. All that is gone. All that is gone. So what starts to happen, and so the term we're going to talk about here is deindustrialization. This country goes through a period of deindustrialization. And that's because of a concept called globalization. There's two concepts here that intersect. Globalization is the notion that money knows no boundaries. Money is international. We care as much about the Nikkei index in Japan as we do the Dow Jones index in Manhattan. The price of tea in China matters. So we have money that flows. So you may have heard the idea of sort of rich people offshoring their money, or maybe putting their money in Swiss bank accounts where the regulations are a little bit different than American bank accounts. Money knows no boundaries. In fact, it's probably a good time right now to get out of dollar bills and get into German Deutschmarks because their currency has been a little bit more stable. You don't want to invest in Greek currency. Greece is having a little bit of a problem at the moment, but Germany pretty solid. And so money knows no boundaries. And so that means not only does the money flow, but the manufacturing flows. So go to Fred Meyer or go to your favorite store and look where everything is made. Look at the clothes you're wearing now. Take them off and look at the tag and see where they're made. They're probably not made in the United States. Everything is made somewhere else, including spatulas and plastic Easter eggs and pantyhose and cars. And that really starts to expand in the 1980s under Ronald Reagan and the notion of trickle-down economics. A lot of big manufacturing sectors, including General Motors, left places like Flint, Michigan. Why? Because the labor costs were too high. I mean, the cost of manufacturing something is a lot of money, right? I mean, you have to pay all those healthcare bills, and you have to pay into the pension, and you have to make sure all the regulations are followed. And it's expensive to have something manufactured here. And we get something for it. We get the American dream and a thrifty middle class. But to the people at the top who want to make money, it's just cheaper to make it in China, or make it in Vietnam, or make it in Bangladesh. I mean, think about it. If you've ever watched the show Shark Tank. Right, these are these young entrepreneurs that have great ideas and they need a capital investment to expand their business. And if I invented something amazing. My dream invention is I want to invent a duvet stuffer. something that will stuff the duvet for you, which seems crazy in this heat. But when it's a cold winter night, you want to put your comforter inside your duvet. I'm inventing a machine, and I go on Shark Tank, and I'm like, I got this great invention, and I can make it in America, but I'd have to pay American workers $30 an hour. I can make it in China and pay those workers $30 a month. Right? If I'm a capitalist, it just makes more sense to make those products in China. So what we start to see is the moving of those manufacturing jobs away from America. They're moving south of the border. They're moving to Southeast Asia. They're moving to Asia. In fact, Flint, Michigan, was the epicenter of deindustrialization in the 1980s as those jobs disappeared. And now we associate Flint, Michigan with lead poisoning in the water. I mean, it's a place of incredible poverty and high crime rates, and because the factories are all gone, the GM factories are all gone. What replaces those jobs, and Bill Clinton was great at creating jobs, but what replaced those jobs were what we call service sector jobs. They aren't unionized. They're low wage. They don't have benefits. There's no union. You're working in the food industry. You're working in a shop. You're working in, a health service. And those service sector jobs do not have the same upward mobility that the factory jobs have, that the manufacturing jobs. So those jobs that replace the manufacturing jobs, we moved from an industrial economy, and then the post-industrial economy is the service sector jobs. And what we're seeing now, especially with the coronavirus and the people who work in wait tables can't even go to work, is the next wave are the online jobs or the gig economy. People working for Uber or people working for Uber Eats. All these jobs where you're not even an employee, you're just a contractor, and there's zero benefits and there's zero opportunity for upward mobility. So this has been the shift of our economy that has squeezed the middle class. And what we started to see in the 1980s is there were more people moving. Remember talking about mobility. There were more people moving down the ladder than up the ladder. In the 1980s, 2/3 of the people to leave the middle class went down, right? Or the American dream out the window. And it's continued to be that way, and it's certainly accelerated into the current crisis that we're in right now. So what does this have to do with Walmart? Well, in 1960, the number one employer in America was General Motors. Now the number one employer, not counting, the corona mess that we're in now. I mean, I think probably the number one employer right now is, UPS. But the number one employer before this moment we're in was Walmart. And at Walmart, there's no union. There are low wages. And so I want to talk about how Walmart ties into this phenomena that we're in of deindustrialization and the erosion of the middle class, and why so many people are upset and freaked out and want to go back to the path to make America great again. For a lot of people is the factory. Let's get back to the factory. Let's get back into the mines. Let's get back into the place where all these decent wage jobs were before they got sent to Southeast Asia or China. And so when we talk about we're going to talk about the Walmart effect. And the Walmart effect has sort of 4 elements to it that explain or sort of illustrate this shift. And we see the Walmart effect in other businesses as well, including Fred Meyer isn't that much better than Walmart, IKEA, the Swedish Walmart. These service sector jobs are low wage, and there's just no hope for upward mobility. So what I want to do to kind of tell the story of the Walmart effect is imagine a Walmart coming to town. That there is news in Hillsborough that they're going to build a Walmart. They're going to build a big Walmart. And of course, some people are going to be very excited. Yay, low prices all the time. Walmart, I can go get all my shopping in one building. Some people are not. And many communities across this country have successfully protested and made enough noise to stop a Walmart coming to their town. And let me tell you why that might be a good thing, why they might be supportive of that. Okay, so these are the 4 things that sort of happen, the 4 things that we can think about this. The first is when a Walmart comes to town, it eliminates local businesses. The local businesses that have to compete with a Walmart that has the incredibly low prices. So let's just take an example of a hardware store. You've got a local hardware store in Hillsborough that's been there for 5 generations, and everybody goes there. And the prices are what the prices are, and you want to buy a chainsaw, and a chainsaw is $150. dollars, and all of a sudden the Walmart opens, and the Walmart has the exact same chainsaw for $70. Where are you going to go? Like, where? I mean, let's be honest. Yeah, you're loyal to that local store, but it's like half the price at the Walmart. So you go to the Walmart. So the hardware store goes out of business. The local clothing store, been there forever. It's where your mom and her mom bought her, clothes. Now they're competing with the Walmart that sells clothes for really cheap. The clothing store goes out of business. And so most mom and pop stores can't compete with the low prices of Walmart and shutter. They close their doors. And we see this when Walmart comes and sets up shop outside of town. The downtown areas in small town America disappear. They just all close up because they can't be with a Walmart. And the guy that might have owned the Walmart, owned the hardware store, and that his hardware store has been in his business, has been in his family business for generations, is out of a job. And who's hiring? The Walmart. So now he's working at the Walmart. The former hardware store owner is now working in the hardware section at the Walmart for minimum wage. So there's some downward mobility right there. And then you'll get the destruction of small town culture, and what comes into those shuttered places are franchises, are the chains. And this is what I think, this is the danger that we're fearing in the coronavirus, of all these local businesses that are closing down. I mean, we just heard that Wong's King, the Chinese restaurant on Southeast Division, is closing. Oh my God, it's like all these great businesses are closing forever. What will come in when things open back up are McDonald's. What will come back in are Burger King. And you can drive across America. I've driven across from Portland to Atlanta many times, and you can drive across America and only eat at Subway sandwich shops. There is a Subway sandwich shop in every small town in America. And so what that produces is something called monoculture. And monoculture is where the local culture is removed by a kind of mono-sameness franchise culture. I used to love to go home to Atlanta, because when I go home to Atlanta, one of the things we have at home in Atlanta, Krispy Kreme donuts. Oh my gosh, I grew up with Krispy Kreme. We'd have Krispy Kremes after church. When I was hanging out in the punk rock bars, we'd go to the Krispy Kreme donuts after, and it was just sort of a local Southern thing. There's a Krispy Kreme at Beaverton now. I don't have to go home to have it. So there's this sameness. There's the same Starbucks. There's the same everything everywhere. So the monoculture replaces the small town culture, because the Walmart has basically destroyed all the mom and pop stores, the local business. So that's number one. Local business is destroyed and replaced with monoculture. What impact number two is the elimination of the large competitor stores, the large sort of specialty stores. We've seen JCPenney's, we've seen Sears, we've seen Toys R Us all go down in flames. Part of it is because increasingly they're also having to compete with Amazon and things like that. But it's really that these bigger stores can't compete with the low prices at Walmart. And this is a really important point. This is because Walmart pioneered buying cheap stuff from China. How can Walmart offer such low prices on everything that they sell? Because it's made in a communist country where the wages are kept really, really low and there's no safety regulations. I went to, my coffee machine broke. Oh my God, it was like a heart attack. And I went to Fred Meyer, and I'm like, oh, my coffee machine is like the most important machine in my life. And it was $19.99. How is this amazing device less than $20? Because it was made by cheap foreign labor. And so Walmart, which in the 1980s, in the early 1980s, they were like, we only sell things made in America. That was their like thing. Come to Walmart, all our stuff was made in the USA. Now nothing at Walmart is made in the USA. Not even the American flags. They have American flags that were made in Vietnam. There's a little bit of irony there, right? Here's a statistic that always blows my mind. 10% of all the products leaving China, leaving the country of China on a boat or a plane or a donkey or whatever, in commerce, 10% of all the things that are manufactured in China and leave the country are going to a Walmart somewhere on Earth. That's insane. That is insane to think about how much they have changed the economic landscape. Because people aren't going to pay, $100 for a pair of jeans when they can get the same pair of jeans, similar pair of jeans, for $39.95 at Walmart. And it looks the same and it smells the same. And, and so H&M, right? That's the clothing store. I mean, all this sort of fast fashion, all this stuff is made by cheap labor, often by children, and very sweatshop-like settings, but nobody, it's cheap. It's cheaper than, the boutique that was here. So, yeah, it was made by child labor, but so what? And so those larger stores like Toys R Us can't compete with the Walmart, and they go out of business. So there's another wave of downward mobility because the Toys R Us workers were, maybe given a couple benefits and had a little bit better opportunity to move up the ladder than the Walmart workers. The third part, which is really the big thing that we're talking about, is the elimination of manufacturing jobs. That those jobs in factories making all the stuff that they would normally sell at a Walmart are now made in China, or now made in Vietnam, or now made in Bangladesh or India or Mexico or some other place. That Walmart has created an economy, it's called a pull market, that basically since they've got the best show in town with these great products for low prices, everybody else has to follow suit. Everybody else, including all the people going on Shark Tank, and say, I'm going to make this in the United States. Yeah, but you're going to charge 5 times as much, and you're not going to sell as much as they sell at Walmart. So everybody has to offshore their labor. All the manufacturing has to move out of the United States. It's just the nature of the economy and what we expect to pay for a lawnmower, what we expect to pay for artificial flowers, what we expect to pay for dog food, right? Even dog food, it comes from China. They've just driven the price down so low that these factories that gave people and are rung up in the American dream, poof, they're gone. They're gone. Drive across the country where there used to be healthy, manufacturing workforces. Gone. All thrown out of work, right? Not just cars, but clothing. When I was doing my skinhead research, there was a big textile mill in Orlando that shut down to go to Mexico, because the labor is cheaper in Mexico. You don't have to pay these union workers, $30 an hour. You can pay, a fraction of that in Mexico. All those people were thrown out of work and went down the ladder. And then the fourth part of this is, the first part is elimination of local businesses, creating monoculture. The second is the elimination of the large competitor and specialty stores, creating downward mobility. The third is the elimination of manufacturing jobs, creating downward mobility. And the fourth is the normalizing of low-wage jobs. Walmart's wages are incredibly low. They don't pay overtime, or very rarely do they pay overtime. They don't offer benefits. They purposely prevent people from unionizing. And if you want healthcare with your job, they will give you the forms to sign up for Medicare, which is how poor people get healthcare. So it ultimately costs the taxpayer billions of dollars, because of the burden of these working poor that we were talking about in the last lecture video. That there are issues with undocumented workers, there are issues with unsafe working environments, and these incredibly low-wage workers. Workers. That's another job. You don't have the American dream if you work at Walmart, right? You are just getting out the credit card and charging it and hope you make enough this month to pay the minimum balance on your credit card. That's the new American dream. But interestingly, the Walton family that owns Walmart, richest family on earth, 6 of the 12 richest people on earth are Waltons, or member of the Walton family. They have made incredible wealth. The richest family on the frickin' planet are the Waltons, the owners of Walmart. So it's been great for them, right? They love all the tax benefits that they get, and they love the Chinese tariff wars and whatever sort of benefits them. It's great for them, but for the American workers, it's really hard. So the question is Walmart good for America? I mean, it's certainly good for the Waltons, but it has accelerated deindustrialization and the shrinking of the middle class. And the shrinking of the middle class doesn't mean more of those middle class people are rich. That would be nice. The shrinking of the middle class has pushed more and more people down into the working class, into poverty. And that's why, and of course, once you've been pushed down, where are you going to go to shop, right? Your only option is to go to Walmart, right? The place that put you out of work, now you have to go there because that's the only place that you can afford to buy clothes or to buy, a lawnmower or to buy whatever you need to buy, because every place else is too expensive. The Walmart is the cheapest. And so it's this devil's bargain that sort of pushes people farther and farther down. Now, the interesting moment that we're in right now is we're moving online, right? As we're ordering on Amazon, and does that kill Walmart and make things better? and bring manufacturing jobs back, or does that push people farther and farther down when they don't even have a job in a store? They're now, delivering food, or, you know, driving for Uber or something like that. A little bit depressing. The good news is, there's not really any good news. I would like to say that there's good news. It's not good. There are a lot of people. Well, the good news might be is that people, might realize the importance of unions, and unions protecting workers, and unions improving the living wages. And if there is any hope, I think people are taking a second look at why unions are important, and what has happened in this country because we turned our backs on the power of the unions to protect American workers. Okay, jeez. All right, I'm gonna go hose myself off, and then we're gonna be talking about race after this. We're gonna have a big discussion about race, which is, I think, really important right now. All right, peace.